Today, we're going to cross the Atlantic and go back a century to uncover the 13 steps to wealth that Napoleon Hill distilled in Think and Grow Rich. We'll do it through real life stories, just like we did on the video on the richest man in Babylon, which, if you haven't seen yet, I 100% recommend watching after this one. Get ready because these stories will stay with you for the next few minutes, and who knows, they might just change your life. And with that said, let's dive into the video.
Welcome to my book. My name is Napoleon Hill, and today I'm going to share with you what took me years to acquire, the knowledge of how to become rich. Let's begin with the story of my dear friend Barnes.
My name is Edwin Barnes, and I just stepped off a grimy, cheap train in New Jersey. I have no money for a return ticket and no suit to impress anyone. But I carry a burning idea inside me, to work with Thomas Edison. Not as an employee, but as a partner. That single thought beats in my head like a drum, and I won't stop until I make it happen. I've finally arrived. Let's walk into his office. When I stood before the most famous inventor in the world, I didn't have a detailed plan, just a desire so vivid I could practically touch it. Edison looked me up and down.
You seem determined. I am going to hire you as a salesman.
I was still far from being his partner, but I kept telling myself, this is just the first step. Months later, Edison launched a new dictaphone that no one wanted.
I don't know why nobody buys this.
Don't worry, I got this. I saw my opportunity, the one I had been waiting for. I knew I had to take it no matter what. So I traveled across half the country demonstrating its usefulness. And sales skyrocketed. When I returned, Edison shook my hand.
Barnes, from today on, you are my partner.
My dream came true, not by luck, but because I never accepted any other option. Since the first moment I arrived in that train, I knew it would happen. I just had to keep on working.
That is the first step toward wealth, the power of burning desire, to set a concrete, crystal-clear goal and refuse to give up until you achieve it. Without that inner fire, none of the other steps will work. Now, let's move on to the second story, where none other than Henry Ford will give you a piece of advice.
They say I'm crazy for imagining that a car could one day be as common as an umbrella, that my manufacturing system is unrealistic, that assembly lines are impossible to implement. And even though my first two businesses failed, I see the streets filled with cars my mind has already built. Every night I tell myself, I will make it happen, because I believe it with every fiber of my being. That certainty is stronger than the steel I bend in my workshop. When I didn't have enough money to pay the next round of wages, I would simply sit down, write the amount I needed, and sign it. Henry Ford, future manufacturer of millions of automobiles. I'd call 5 banks, 4 doors would close, but the 5th would open. Because my conviction was contagious. In the end, time proved me right, and life taught me that victory belongs to the most tenacious, and that faith is the most important force in our world.
The faith described in the book is not religious, but psychological. To believe so vividly in your goal that your subconscious mind begins to plan the means to achieve it. Now, let's move on to the third story. But this time, I will tell it to you myself. My newborn son, Blair, came into the world without ear flaps. The doctor declared, "He will never hear your voice, Mr. Hill." That very night, I cradled him and whispered, "Blair, you can hear me, and one day you'll speak as clearly as any man." I repeated that phrase every single morning for years. When he turned 12, he insisted on entering a public speaking contest. His speech echoed through the entire auditorium. As he stepped off the stage, he hugged me and said, "I did it because I heard it in my head first." That was when I truly understood the power of autosuggestion. That is the third step, autosuggestion. Every word you speak about yourself is a brick in the construction of your future. Now, let's move on to the fourth piece of advice, which will once again come from Henry Ford.
They called me ignorant in a newspaper. I decided to sue them. On the stand, the lawyer began firing history questions at me. How many soldiers did the British send in such and such war, the exact year of a certain battle? I smiled. Mr. Ford, do you admit you don't know these facts? I admit that I don't carry them in my head, and that if I ever need any fact, I can press a button and within minutes have a man here who knows it precisely, end quote. Silence fell. I don't pay my engineers to memorize encyclopedias. I pay them to solve real problems. That's what organizing specialized knowledge means.
General knowledge, no matter how vast, does not bring wealth unless it is organized and directed toward a practical purpose. Real capital is knowing where information is, who has it, and how to coordinate to carry out a plan. No one pays you for what you know in the abstract, but for what that knowledge can do. Now, we'll travel to Italy, as Marconi, the inventor of the radio, wants to give us the next piece of advice.
They laughed at me, saying it was impossible to send a message without wires, that radio waves were just a mathematical whim, not a reality. Even so, there I was, working tirelessly on what I had once imagined and dreamed. All I needed was to receive a signal, and says in Morse code. If we received it on the other side, humanity would have taken a step into a new world of communication. I didn't invent electricity or telegraphy. I simply took familiar pieces and combined them in a different way. That nation at work. Today, the air is filled with messages that once didn't exist. What was unthinkable yesterday is now a fundamental part of our lives.
So, the fifth piece of advice I'll give you is that imagination is the workshop of your mind. But for imagination to become reality, there must first be a plan, just as Edwin Barnes will now explain to us.
Edison's dictaphone was good, but it wasn't selling. The salesman said, "People don't understand it." I thought, then let's make them understand, with a plan. I wrote on the first page, goal, 1,000 units in 90 days. Market, law firms, newspapers, courthouses, and railroads. Daily action, 5 live demonstrations. I prepared a 90-second opening script, a list of objections with answers, and a 1-page order form. I drew a route, New Jersey to Philadelphia, to Baltimore to DC, to back to Newark. Every night I measured, demonstrations performed, conversion rates, revenue. I sent Edison a weekly telegram with improvements, mouthpiece too stiff during fast dictation, ad brochure with 3 use cases, etc., etc. By day 60, the product started selling itself because the plan had put it in front of the right person with the right message at the right time. The rest you already know. He shook my hand and called me his partner.
Without a plan, faith remains just hope. With a plan, faith becomes a calendar and metrics. That's why it is the 6th step toward wealth. But a plan without decision will never materialize, as our friend Henry Ford will explain to us right now.
I listened to everyone, I took notes, and then I said, no. Not because I despise luxury, but because I had already set my course. A car for the majority, not the minority. That day I set 2 rules, standardize parts and lower the price every year. And the colors, Mr. Ford? They asked. Any color, as long as it's black. It took me minutes to say it and years to make it happen. The factory aligned behind that choice, and the world climbed onto 4 wheels.
Failure flourishes where procrastination reigns. So the 7th step is decision. But once you decide to start, you must persist. Most people give up 3 steps away from gold. In the next section, you will learn about the case of R.U. Darby and how to shield yourself from quitting when you are closest.
My uncle and I followed a gold vein that promised fortune. We bought drills, pooled our savings, and sweated for months under the mountain. Suddenly, the vein was gone. We dug to the left and right, up and down. Nothing. Maybe we were wrong from the start, I thought. We gave up the search and sold the machines for a pittance to a junk dealer. A week later, that man hired a mining engineer. He calculated the geological fault and said, "Dig here." They struck the ground 3 times, and the vein returned with a wealth that blinded us. We had stopped 3 feet from gold. That day, I learned the price of quitting. Years later, while selling insurance, I would remind myself, I never stop at the first no. A client could refuse once, twice, even 3 times. I kept going with respect and method, and I ended up signing policies others had already written off. Persistence cashes the checks that haste takes away.
Persistence is the sustained force that turns desire into its economic equivalent, and that's why it's the 8th principle. Now you'll see how Carnegie and his circle of masterminds turned plans into empires.
I was never the smartest man in the room. I was the one who brought the smartest together in the same room and got them rowing in the same direction. From Charles M. Schwab, I asked for fire. From my engineers, precision. From my financiers, prudence with ambition. Every Monday, we sat down without grandiloquent speeches. Facts, frictions, decisions. We left with 3 things: a clear goal, someone responsible, and a date. Once, on the brink of a strike, production was collapsing, and the market was breathing down our necks. We opened the plan, man, line by line, and someone said, "If Homestead stops, Duquesne must double." Another replied, "Impossible." Schwab, without raising his voice, turned the impossible into staggered shifts and performance bonuses. In 2 weeks, steel was flowing again. I wrote down the principle that would make me rich. The alliance of minds creates a power no individual can match.
The mastermind is the coordination of knowledge and effort, in a spirit of harmony between 2 or more people for a definite purpose. From that union emerges a 3rd mind, an energy that exceeds the sum of its parts. Remember, where a single mind sees limits, an alliance sees leverage. Wealth is often the coordination of talents rather than the display of solitary genius. Let's move on to the 10th principle, where Samuel will share with us a secret to multiplying your performance without burning out.
My name is Samuel, and I was just an average salesman until I fell in love. I didn't change products or commissions, but something inside me was on fire. I walked taller, my words came out like music, my presence opened doors. In 1 month, I doubled my visits. In 3, I tripled my closings. I realized that the energy I used to waste on nerves and daydreams could be directed like a lightning bolt. I left the Thursday bar nights, traded staying up late for getting up early, and turned every impulse into calls, demonstrations, and letters to clients. When the relationship ended, the fire didn't. I had learned to channel emotion into creative work. I never went back to being an average salesman.
That was the 10th principle, the transmutation of sex. The process of channeling the powerful emotion of sexual desire into paths of achievement, creativity, ambition, and leadership. Now, I will explain how to prevent this feeling from sabotaging you. When everyone else is asleep, I dictate orders to the invisible factory that works through the night, my subconscious. I read my formula. On such a date, I will have this in my hands in exchange for this. I repeat it with emotion, not like a parrot. Then I close my eyes and see the finished result. The signed check, the letter of acceptance, the factory in motion. At first, nothing happened, or so I thought. Then, scattered details began to fall into place. An idea in the shower, the exact name of a contact upon waking, a paragraph that wrote itself. I understood that the subconscious doesn't reason. It obeys the dominant emotion you feed it, whether faith or fear. Since then, I've guarded my mental diet with the care of a banker. These are the emotions I use most to impress orders: desire, faith, love, sexual drive, enthusiasm, and hope. And these are the leaks I close every day: fear, jealousy, hatred, revenge, greed, and superstition. What you let in keeps working when you're not looking. When I'm out of options, I don't force it. I sit up straight, close my eyes, and tune in. First, I transmit. I read my formula aloud with emotion: amount, date, plan, and I ask myself, who already has what I need? What step can I take today? Then I listen. Sometimes a phrase comes, sometimes a name, sometimes just a feeling of urgency. I write it down without judgment. I've seen it time and again in mastermind groups, 5 minds aligned, the same goal at the center of the table, and suddenly a solution appears that none of them had brought from home. Call it intuition, ether, or social chemistry. The fact is, the brain works like a station. It transmits thoughts charged with emotion and receives others when it is calm and focused. Adjust the antenna, and the signal comes through. Treat your brain like a disciplined antenna. Transmit with emotion, receive in calm, and validate through action. That is my 12th principle. Now, to conclude, I will share my greatest secret, that quiet voice, which, after desire, faith, and practice, whispers to you. Here is my strangest confession. For years, I silently convened an invisible council, Lincoln for integrity, Edison for inventiveness, Carnegie for organization, Ford for decisiveness. I would seat them before me, in my imagination, and present them with a real dilemma. Then I would listen, not to voices from beyond, but to new combinations of knowledge and character that my mind alone could never have reached. One night, weighed down by debts and delays, I asked, "What do I do now?" Lincoln answered with patience.
You shall do it with patience to succeed.
Edison with experiments.
The key is doing it through testing.
Carnegie with structure.
You must perfectly structure your plan.
Ford with a take action today.
You should start now to take advantage.
By the end, I had a concrete list. I executed it. It wasn't magic. It was the trained sum of desire, faith, autosuggestion, and calm, manifesting as timely intuition. That is what I call the 6th sense. The 6th sense is the final touch. It appears when the other 12 steps have already trained your mind. Don't force it, prepare yourself. When it comes, it will simply tell you, do it, or not yet. That's where your responsibility begins, to obey.
We have gone through Hill's 13 Steps to Wealth in just 17 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it, but above all, I hope it helped you learn something new. If it did, I strongly recommend that you subscribe and also 100% check out my video on the richest man in Babylon. If you've made it all the way to the end, let me know in the comments by answering this question. What has been your worst financial mistake? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.